Let me tell you this right here. You hit on something. Let me cut you off there. Okay. You said something about being able to go to your dad. At 10, I was sickening a dog, bent over, pain, just excruciating pain, right? I didn't know. I didn't know that I was having an appendicitis attack. Mm. He knew immediately because he'd been through it. Wow. He said he knew what it was. Get in the car, let's go. Mm. Wow. You know, it's something to have that around that can say, you know what, he can speak to it. I know what's wrong with you. I see it on your face. I know what's wrong with your health because this happened to me. You know, we joke about, not really joke, but we can talk about, hey, that blockage. Mm-hmm. You know, we done talk, you know, we done had our fair share of that, most of us in here, right? He and I can relate to that. He can tell the doctor to look at this, run this test, run that test. You know, that's something, that ain't in no book. Bro. Yeah. You know, you can't put a dollar, a price tag on that. I mean, that right there, man, when I tell you, when we talk sometimes, and sometimes, you know, it get on my nerves. It does. But when I sit back and I think through it, I'm like, all right, old man.
Some of our seniors were not very educationally smart, but they were wise.
Oh, beyond years.
Yeah.
Far beyond their years, the things that they do. Think about this. When you have, you know, a family that had 8 kids, you know, 9 kids. On a ratio basis, they didn't make nearly the money, obviously, that we make. Not even on a ratio basis. Yet they made it through, and they carried on and prospered.
It's 10.
Like, who was it said, their dad worked and put all their kids through school, I think, Dan's, you know.
10 at Domino.
Can you imagine putting kids through college and you making...
That's what you're looking for, right?
You know, I don't know, $80 a week, $100 a week. You know what I mean? So, it's amazing what they were able to do.
It's amazing when you think of the time period for our fathers. You know, Tony, when you think back on your father, what's something that you see in you that you know is purely your dad?
My father grew up in a small city called Point, Texas, and what I gathered from my father growing up was he grew up rural and very agricultural. So I honor my father by having a garden. I grew up in a very urban. Folks had gardens and stuff. So I do things that essentially honor his historical significance. You know, one thing I was going to say too, that in my generation, we also had what I would call surrogate fathers. And I think that's really important to point out because I look at some of my best friends, their uncles, Uncle Sonny. Uncle Sonny was my uncle, but it conveyed the same as if he were a father figure to you. And one of the things that were just a big byproduct of my generation is that you had so many African American men in the community doing so many wonderful things. I think about my father. By the time my brother and sisters got to be teenagers, my father decided he would be a coach in the CYO, Catholic Youth Organization, at our parish. And I oftentimes thought, man, you know, it'd have been nice for my dad to be my baseball coach or basketball coach. But it really ratified at my father's funeral to see 40 or 50 guys who are already 40 years old, 50 years old, that saw my father as their surrogate dad. And you hear it. You know, your dad was like a father to me. Yeah. So I guess the point that I'm also making to you, brother, too, is the fact that despite what we might have experienced in our own personal journeys, there are these wonderful aha moments where people come into your life. Absolutely. They're going to come into your son's life and provide a swath of just wonderful, profound experiences to help shape and form who he is. And I think that's a really important part of being an African American male in today's world, and that we all have to have that sense of carrying forward the collective responsibility of being strong black men.
I think that's so powerful when you talk about just the influence
that, you know, we grew up. I think if I'm hearing everyone, you know, we represent and talk about our dads and the point that, you know, they were doing something. Mm-hmm. You know, when we got to this notion today, you know, if I don't work, I don't eat. I mean, that's what you don't work, you don't eat. And we look at where, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, punk butt parents and things of that nature, you know, and that train up a child in the way they should go, you know. And G, you stated that, you know, might have been a horrible husband, but a great father. And, you know, I think as we look about, you know, what our dads meant to us and what they provided, I never forget, you know, my father was a preacher, as I stated. And, you know, big dude, you know, so he ain't get into too many fights. When nobody, old man, 6'4", 400 pounds. So, you know, you ain't coming after him, right? But he said a couple things that's profound. He said, son, I want you to run for every fight. Run from it. But they better not catch you. In the mindset that, hey, I'm going to do all that I can to do to avoid any confrontational. But if it come down to it, like you just, law of self-preservation, that we're going to have to get down. And I think, you know, as he also went about, you know, my old man liked to eat. Love to eat. We used to go to Ponderosa.
Come on.
Church.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know about that. You don't know about Ponderosa.
Ponderosa back in the day.
Chief Steakhouse.
We went to Ponderosa one day, and my dad loved him a T-bone, right? Well done. Man, he ate everything up off that T-bone and bit the gristle and chewing the bone. Got up and went to the bathroom, right? Man, and the little waiter came around cleaning plates or whatever, took my dad's plate. My dad came back and said, man, where my steak at? And the guy's like, sir, that steak on. He said, man, I had some more meat on that steak. Dude had to go cook him another steak. Man, you know what I mean? So
I think Dad knew what he was doing. Man, he gaming on me.
right. But you know, there again, just, hey, he loved to eat. And he said, hey, order all you want, but eat all you order. Didn't have no problem. Wasn't talking about wasting no food, you know, as you go through. So I learned from him really what it was to be a man. Take care of your family.
What was the saying when you were growing up? Hey, eat all your food. Folks in Africa starve.
Oh, man.
We used to hear that at nauseam. You know, but the essence was, hey, people work too hard. We don't have a lot. Eat what you have on your plate or don't put it on your plate.
Did you play twice?
You know, so, you know, one of the things that
Scored 10.
a lot of times when people think about the black father, they see this, or they have this image of not caring, you know, gruff and all that. But one of the things that sticks with me, man, my father, holidays, man, he was more excited than we were, man. He wanted to play Monopoly. He wanted, man, bid whist. I learned how to play bid whist. I was probably like 6 or 7.
You didn't do too well, though.
I'd organize his cards and help him play his hand. You know, bowling, tennis, basketball, goal in the yard. You know, whatever it was, and he was out there.
So no, my daddy taught me how to play tunk. I never learned how to play bid whist. They played crazy eights. I don't know if y'all remember that. And then of course spades.
Right.
Everybody played. Every black person I know how to play spades. I know a few that don't. But you know, getting back to when we go through the process, one thing he said to me, and I'll forget it, when it came time for graduation from high school. He said, son. I said, yeah, Daddy. He said,
Another 10.
I never got that out. He said, son, you know, graduation coming up real soon. He said, I don't know what your plans are. He said, but you know, that you graduate on that Saturday or Sunday. He said, you know, on Monday, I know what I'm doing.
Going to work.
I know what your mama doing.
What you doing?
What you doing?
That's good. You want to watch these, Domino?
Don't know the message, y'all. We still playing down.
His dad taught him a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Time wasn't one of them.
And he said, so what's your plan? Meaning you got to leave. You know, you're not gonna sit up in his house. You're gonna have a job. You go watch this. Either you go into school or the military.
Hey, so
but you going.
whose parent? My dad's was, so you could work in a factory or you could go to school. I mean, it was just cut and dry. There was no other option.
No, we had two Military or school?
I tell you, guys, we're talking about our fathers and what impact they had in our lives. When the summer of 1979-80, I was working with my father. He was a general contractor, and he built these, small community homes. And we would throw those things up, man, small shopping centers and strip shopping centers. And his specialty was a brick mason. Okay, that was his thing. Hands were like leather, boy.
My cousins in Oklahoma.
I mean, like leather, right? But he was a contractor. So that summer, man, I go down to Bryan College Station, Navasota area, about, right outside of Prairie View, Texas. And we go down there, man. I'm working with him that summer, me and my cousin Daryl. And I'm 155 pounds soaking wet, and we tossing bricks up on scaffolding. We set up. When we finish, we set up for the day, for the next day, set the brick up and everything. We ready to roll. So we had to make the mortar for the bricks, right? Mm-hmm. So you put the bag in there, 10 scoops of sand, and you mix it up. We had a mixer. So you hold the wheelbarrow, and you pour with one hand while you're holding the wheelbarrow with the other. I'm 155 pounds. So I do this, man, and I spill
15.
this cement, right? So my dad is right there, and I'm cussing. I'm cussing like a sailor.
20.
And he looked up, and he started walking over there real fast, and he stopped right before he smacked me. I thought he was going to smack me. And he said to me, he said, son, this is why I want you to go to college, so that you never, ever have to do what I'm doing now. He said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's an honest day's work. He said, but I never want you to have to do this. He said, two things. I don't want you to have to do it. And one, you ain't cut out for this, son. So I knew right then, this was the summer of 1979-80. We had to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 to 4:30 in the morning, by the headlights of our cars, and be through by 10:30, 11 at the latest. It was too hot. This is when the average temperature was over 110 degrees this particular summer. People were dropping dead. So, but I say that to say my dad saw that I wasn't cut out for that. And he told me, after I thought he was going to smack me, hey, this is why I want you to go to school. So he left me with some profound things. The last thing I'll tell you, on his deathbed, he told me, he said, son, do all that you can to make your marriage work. He says, so that if it doesn't work, you can look yourself in the mirror. He said, son, I'm 76 years old. He says, and he paused. My dad was he was an emotional guy. He was a man's man, but he was emotional with his family. And he said to me, do all you can to make your marriage work, so that if it doesn't work, you can always look yourself in the mirror. And when he paused for what seemed like an eternity, he said, I can't look myself in the mirror. And he says, I want to apologize to you for not being there for you.
Wow.
And me being a young man, I had to digest all of this while he's on his deathbed. Couldn't chastise him, couldn't do any of that.
Right.
But I learned what humility was that day. I learned what not being afraid to say you're sorry was that day.
10.
Own your shit, as we say today. Own your shit, man.
Tom in his third house.
So those are just some of the things that he left for me. And I'll tell you a story later about who was my hero. And it wasn't my father. But I'll tell you why. Rob?
No, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say one of the things that we kind of talk about, what made me think about it was G on the job. When I was 18, my mom and dad worked on the waterfront all my life. And then I'm the third. My name is Tom Boudreaux the third. And so to work on the waterfront is really nepotism. You know what I mean? And the way you get on is you get up, you go down to the local hall, and your parent or your uncle or whatever introduce you to all the foremen. This my boy right here. When y'all see him, put him to work. Wow. And when I would go down there, they were like, Lil Boudreaux, you with me today. You know, whatever docket was, whatever we were throwing out. But the thing of it is, too, and it kind of ties right in with what G said, but before that part is everywhere I went, when I would introduce myself, I say I'm Tom Boudreaux. They're like, you Tom Boudreaux's son? And my dad, man, your dad gave me my first chance. And what I really appreciated was that his name was money down there. And I was like, if there's anything I want to do, is I want my name to be, like, okay, that's an upstanding dude. He ain't gonna mess over you, because that's what I saw from them. But the same thing is, when I was 18. I was down there. I was making grown man money. All my friends were making minimum wage. I'm serious. I was making grown man money. Yeah. I'm like, and I hadn't even stepped on U of H campus. Wow. I was like, it's on me. Yeah. I was like, man, forget going to school. right. I make this kind of money like that. Yeah. My dad told me, he said, just like I got you on, I'll get you off. He said, you going to school. He said, you don't want to do this shit the rest of your life. And he started pointing out like 60-year-old men. He said, look at these guys. Look how they look. My dad was a foreman, so he didn't have to lift nothing. And he was in the union. But the older guys who weren't in the union or whatever, they didn't have that much seniority. Yeah. They were throwing 100-pound rice sacks. Yep. That was cool when I was 18, and you get 50. You
can't do that all your life.
Hey, this conversation is helping me so much. So thank you all. Like it's because I thirst for knowledge, and I thirst for this topic because it's information that I don't have. So I'm stealing like some of the things that you guys' fathers have told you guys. I'm telling you, and that's an honor, right? That's legacy. And to your point, Uncle Tony, like I've had plenty of men in my life that have imparted to me and treated me and taken me in like a son. So just to give homage to those guys as well. Again, on my name, I'm Junior. My son is the third, and I have those conversations with him. Hey, look, bro, our name is out here. So if I'm out here horning in the streets or something or whatever, woo, and something happened, that's gonna reflect on you. That's how I talk to him, man, to keep him on a path. Just because it ain't, because that's all they see on TV is like, oh, you got a pimp and boom. No, that ain't really what it is. You know what I'm saying? So just kind of telling him why dad is at home every day.
But you know what you said, or Tom was saying about your name. When you left the yard, you left your yard, and you down the street. It meant something not to embarrass your family's name.
Give me 15.
Don't be them Brown kids. They bad. I don't want them down here.
For real.
Tear up everything.
The whole name of the family.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It meant something, and it should mean something today. Because I don't think that a lot of our younger children
I'm done.
today understand what it means to have a name or to represent that family name, whatever that is.
Okay, that's what you got. Okay.
And you don't have to be rich, you don't have to be, but you got to be rich in something, in character, so that you don't embarrass the family name.
So let me say this. Y'all talking about all this good, positive stuff on this. I just really want us to labor in the point that, we go back to parents. Whether, you as a dad are in the house or outside of the house. You might have said in one episode that your mama did the best she could to raise you, but inevitably there's still some things that she missed as a part of that. So as black brothers sitting up in this room, and Johnny, to your point last week, that how do we go out here and touch on to these kids that's missing on it? I just say, let's go around. What can we give and what can we offer? Because you look on the news today, we look around us, we have generations that are missing a father figure or thereabout in their lives. And no wonder the world is where it is. When you talk about discipline and order, we bring that to the room. Your voice has volume.
I'll get 15 real quick.
You get that 15 on
15, but I'd like Tony to jump
Well,
on that.
let me, from my vantage point, I think what y'all are doing, because I've seen the films, I meet some of you for the very first time, but I've seen the films, I've been a part. I just will tell you, what you guys are doing is probably one of the most profound things that an African American male can do to impact change. Because as I sit down and I watch the film and I listen to the conversations, I can almost tell you who's who, what you said, when you said it. And I'm saying that from my perspective, I see this assemblage of African American men that are having the courage to have these conversations about tough issues, about fatherhood, about being a black male, about just any number of things. I think that what y'all are doing is creating the potential for a lot of aha moments. And even though you don't know it, there are going to be people who watch these episodes and it's going to resonate because every one of your stories has a similar path for someone else that are just waiting to hear the antidote to solve or a pathway for them. And I applaud you guys because I just tell you that, as I was telling Dan and Robert, that the mere fact that y'all use dominoes, that's a bravado sport.
Yeah.
And so to be able to play dominoes and have these intense conversations and vulnerabilities, like I've heard you guys say some things that a lot of guys my age just wouldn't share publicly. And for y'all to be so transparent and comedic at the same time, I think it's just profound. Y'all have something very, very special. And for me to get in my car and drive to Houston, Texas, and this is a farther I've driven now about 4 or 5 years. Oh, wow. and post-COVID, in COVID. But the point is that it's because y'all do what you do. That's why I'm here.
Man, we thank you for
So I
that.
just
We definitely
say that.
appreciate your presence, Uncle Tony. But I mean, in the spirit of transparency, not all of us play dominoes. Some of us lay dominoes like we just. Just want to stay honest. You know,
Just want to put that out there.
yeah.
I don't know what to say. But you're right, Johnny. The truth, hey, my grandfather used to say, the truth don't care who tell it. So guess what? And you know what, speaking of that, man, if I could, I said my father wasn't my hero in this respect. My mother's father was my hero, and I'll tell you a quick story. He was a 6'4", 235-pound man, 240-pound man. Didn't speak a lot, but when he spoke, his word was the end of it. When he say, now I'm through with it, that was it. There was no additional conversation. But I want to do something, or I want to. When he say, I'm through with it, now I'm through with it, that's it. That means no one else talks, no one else does anything. He never raised his voice, but he raised me. It's a big difference. See, some people raise their voice in anger and whatever. He never got angry, but he raised me. But here's the story. He worked at an ice house in Palestine, Texas. Palestine, Texas. And we, on Saturday, my sister and I would go up to the ice house with him, spend an hour or so, and then we'd go to his sister's house, which is right around the corner, my Aunt Hannah. And he was the baby boy, but he took care of the family, which men did back then. So we were up there, so his boss came in, and he said something, and I didn't hear him. And he said to my grandfather, he said, say, old nigga, didn't I tell you to do this or do that? So my grandfather, I turned, my grandfather kept doing what he was doing. He said, say, Robert, say, old nigga, didn't I say do this, do that? Whew. He said, he called me Junior. He said, Junior, he said, take your sister. He said, go to Hannah's house. He said, don't look back, don't turn around. Have Hannah call Lucy, which was my grandmother. So we started walking. And when we started walking, I told my sister, I said, you go to Hannah's house. I'm going back.
I know.
My sister goes to Hannah's house.
Your play.
I turn around, and he tells this white man, they have these tongs that they stick down in the floor. You may remember this, Tony, to pick up these big slabs of ice.
Yeah.
It wasn't bagged ice like we have now.
Yeah.
It's a big tongue. And boy, he pick them up. So when I turned around, he had this white man, he said, don't you ever talk to me like that in front of my children. Motherfucker, I will kill you. Robert, "You gonna go to jail? I'm gonna call the sheriff." His name was Charlie Jenkins. Everybody knew Charlie Jenkins. He drove a station wagon, but he put people in jail. He said, "I don't give a damn what you." He said, "If you ever talk to me like that, I can talk to you anywhere I want to." And my grandfather, I saw a look in his eyes I'd never seen before or since. He was getting ready to kill this man. And when he looked up and he saw me standing there, it wasn't by accident that I turned around. I think me turning around saved his life. Certainly saved mine because he became my hero. And I knew right then, during this particular time, this was probably in 1968, about 67, 68. And at this time, they were still lynching Negroes in East Texas. There's no doubt about it. So he became my hero that day. When he saw me, it stopped him from doing whatever he was about to do. But the way he talked to that white man that day, I knew then that he was willing to lay his life down on the line for me and my sister. That day,
Absolutely.
from that day forward, I saw him cry 2 times. Once he had an accident, cutting his yard, slipped and fell, boom, cut off part of his toes. Cried then. And the last time I saw him cry was in Beaumont, Texas, at my wedding. That's the kind of man he was.
Powerful, man. As we come through, let's put a bow. You know, we can talk all night about our dads, the richness of it, but to try to pull this to some sensibility, you know, let's just go around the room in a minute or less. You know, just, you know, final thoughts about your dad, man. Like I say, we can talk off camera all night long, but let's just kick it, you know, Johnny, for what you have. Just give us, you know, you share with where you at. Where you at?
Yeah, I want to say that I want to salute my father in terms of the life that I live. I mean, the guy was 21 years old, may have had some mental issues or something, I don't know. But although I still deal with a lot of anger by not having a father, I absolutely want to salute my father through the life that I live. That's where I'm at, bro.
Good. Tom.
Man, just, you know, the dude was the center point of my life, you know. I mean, he just epitomized my, you know, being my dad, what a relationship looks like, you know. I mean, him and my mom. If I go to the doctor, they talk about what a cute couple my mom and dad. If I go to Kroger with them, where they go shopping, the guy was like, "That's your parents? Oh man, they great." You know, I mean, they like celebrities, but they tight, you know, and the relationship goals and everything, man. And just if I could be, you know, that much of what he was, man, that's what I would strive for. So
That's amazing.
Ronnie. Reverend Ronnie.
Yeah.
Little Ronnie.
Little Ronnie. Short Ronnie.
It's medium.
10.
You had that one too.
Tom need 15 to go out.
He had every one of them.
He can't hold his man.
No,
This
all the
time-
muscles for nothing.
Just don't let Dad win.
Dan's not gonna win. I think when I think about my dad, I think about I think more so of him now as a friend than anything else. He was a hard man to live under, but now that I've become a parent and a grandparent, now I understand some of the disciplines. There's wasn't always that switch or that extension cord or whatever he got his hand on. It was, you know, some of the other life lessons that the way he disciplined me with them, right? I think it helped form who I am today, my thought, my thinking. And I think if I had not, as much as I used to fight being like him, like we got the same name, we look alike. I ain't trying to hear all that. But the more I fought it, the more it's like you know, they talk about you can't run from God. You know, when it's on you, it's on you. If that anointing's on you, you can't run from it. It's gonna catch you eventually, right? It finally caught up with me. So once I embrace who I am and who I come from, what I'm a byproduct of, I mean, it just made life so much richer to the point to be able to open up and share, and him to share with me things I had no idea. I mean, it's like having your own encyclopedia, your living encyclopedia. You know, He can look into my life and tell me about, hey, be on the lookout for this, be on the lookout for that. Stuff you just can't nobody tell you that, man. But one or two people, your mama or your daddy. And I just praise God I got them both still here today.
Amen.
I really do.
Amen.
Tony.
And I don't know if there's enough words. I just say that I'm so proud to be my father's son.
I'm with you on that.
That's amazing.
I'm with you on
That's
that.
powerful, Tony.
I'm with you on that.
G.
I'm with you on that.
And listen, I love my father to a fault. You don't realize greatness sometimes because you're too close to it sometimes. And even in our faults, even with our faults and in our frailties, I got to see the man that I came to respect, as I said, as an adult. And it's not often you get to see growth. As a man, you get to see your dad become a man. All the things I thought he did that were wrong, running the streets, etc., it shaped me in a way that allows me to be who I am today because I fought to not be who he was.
Come on, G.
Up to the age of 55.
Come on, G.
And I said earlier, if I could be half the man he was from 55 to 76, I'm doing damn well. So I thank him for that, man, for what he imparted in me. And through all of his faults, he always let me know what I let my family know is that
I'm on you.
I love you.
I do over here.
And to me, I love you means more than any phrase I could ever comprehend for me personally. And he taught me that. So,
Awesome, man.
thanks, Pops.
DB.
Man, so that's a tough one because, like G was saying earlier, if I could have 5 minutes, that wouldn't be enough. But
He skipped me.
the one thing that lasts with me is my father knew what he wanted for me out of life. Man, so I took the extended play program in college, and when I finally finished, I was having a problem finding a job. And man, I kept interviewing with State Farm and didn't get the job, and I was going through a lot of life changes. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I want to come home, because at that time he had bought a lot of property, had a big farm operation going on. I said, I want to come home and run the farm. And I'll never forget, man, to this day, my dad said, I don't care what you do, but you can't come home.
That's deep.
And man, that hurt. That hurt. But he knew he didn't want me to be a farmer. He knew he had higher aspirations. So that sticks with me.
10.
Man.
10.
So,
Rob?
10 and so, and I just
get
keep
that
going.
same 10.
Same 10. Tom needs 5 to go.
Tom has never scored this many points.
I know, in the history of it, but he gonna win this
Well,
one.
I tell you, Ronnie's just awful.
Garbage.
So sitting here to go,
He's throwing alley oops.
sitting here trying to be,
It's not you, bro.
kind of the last individual to go.
10.
I get an opportunity to listen to all of what y'all stated, and man, it's just powerful, man. You can get emotional on that. And like I say, by my father being a preacher, man, that he impacted so many people's lives. And you talking about, an ambassador.
Yeah.
You carry your father's name. My old man, a big dude, that's Reverend Blanton's sons. As you go about it, Reverend Blanton's sons, and he had a nickname, Bummershaw. I don't know what that meant but it had to be before he, united and had a
Before he met the
relationship.
Lord.
Before he met the Lord. He's a bad man.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I say on this is that, and I give this to my girls, is that we say, we are the Blantons, the mighty, mighty Blantons. Everywhere we go, people ought to know who we are. So we tell them, we are the Blantons. And that meant a lot in terms of your name meant something. And when Tom, you
10.
talked about that when you go out places, Ronnie needs 5 to win, that people say, them your parents. So I guess as I say, with dads, that vital portion of our lives, and he did make a dramatic impact on me and who I try to be. just out of his love, and he would give the shirt off his back. Didn't have a lot of money when he left, but you know, he was rich. It was rich because he believed if I could help somebody along this way, my living was in vain. You know what I mean? So I just say, as another powerful episode, man, we can keep rolling. But again, as us brothers in here today, you know, to be able to give the imagery, and if just something that we can say that we can say can help somebody along the way, I think this is powerful. So as again, fellas, you know, it's a good episode. And we didn't say this the last time, but I always say peace, love, and hair grease.
And
take
hair
whichever
grease.
one you need. We're out.
All right. Hey, make sure you subscribe and always leave comments. We'll holla.